Heart of darkness. Donald Trump prepares to metaphorically rape Ukraine. Welcome to the No Spin Zone. Graph's Grievances starts right now. When does global expansion become rape? That's a central question in Joseph Conrad's 1899 novel, Heart of Darkness. Through the eyes of a sailor journeying up the Congo River, Conrad reveals the brutal reality of Europe's colonization of Africa during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The native inhabitants, enslaved and forced to work, were exploited by European powers intent on draining the continent of its resources. Conrad juxtaposes the cruelty of imperialism with the indifferent majesty of the jungle that surrounds the white man's settlements. Greed, oppressive climate, and the demoralizing frontier life bring out the worst in the colonizers. Conrad doesn't just describe the physical violence, he shows how the colonizers rape Africa, its people, its land, its resources, leaving destruction in their wake. Once the natives worked themselves to death, they were discarded like tools. This powerful novel left a lasting impact on me when I first read it in high school. What shocked me most was how so few Europeans, especially those who understood the cruelty, spoke out against the horrors of colonization. How could so much suffering go on without more voices condemning it? Fast forward to today. On Friday, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine expected to visit the White House and sign a minerals deal with President Donald Trump. While the terms of the agreement remain under wraps, what we know suggests that Trump is gearing up to metaphorically rape Ukraine. According to a draft agreement seen by the New York Times and CNN, Ukraine would be forced to contribute half of its revenues from the future monetization of its natural resources, including critical minerals, oil, and gas. In addition, Ukraine would have to give the United States half of any earnings from liquefied natural gas terminals and port infrastructure. And as for what Ukraine gets out of this deal, good question. The draft agreement vaguely references security guarantees for the war-torn country, but does not include any specific U.S. commitment to safeguarding Ukraine's security.
Well, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's we're talking about Europe as their next door neighbor. But we're going to make sure everything goes well.
Trump, in his first cabinet meeting yesterday, making clear that the U.S. will not be providing security guarantees to Ukraine, even while Ukraine hands over half of its wealth. Of course, Zelensky and Ukraine desperately need the protection of the United States, as their war against Russia's unprovoked invasion has just entered its fourth year. But Trump says Ukraine should look to Europe for protection against Russia. So Ukraine gives the U.S. its resources and in return has to turn to Europe for protections against Russia? What kind of deal is that? This is Trump exploitation at its finest. So why is Zelensky even considering this metaphorical rape of his country? Because without such an agreement, Ukraine will almost certainly meet defeat at Russia's hands. That's because Trump and his acolytes in the Republican-controlled Congress have decided to end their support for Ukraine's heroic fight against authoritarian Russia. Under former President Joe Biden's leadership, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with $66 billion in military assistance, allowing Ukraine to defy the odds and prevent Russia from annexing their country. But now that resistance is coming to an end because Trump and his allies in Congress would rather side with a murderous dictator, Putin, than a courageous democratically elected leader, Zelensky. Will Europe be willing and able to pick up the slack of the United States and continue to fund Ukraine's fight against Russia? That remains to be seen. But based on how things are unfolding, with French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer making pilgrimages to the White House this week, groveling at Trump's feet, I doubt it. What could happen, though, is the formation of a peacekeeping force from Britain, France, and Germany to protect Ukraine from future Russian invasion. But for now, that's just a pie dream. Which brings us back to the heart of darkness. This isn't just about Ukraine. It's a lesson from history. Once again, we see the powerful exploiting the vulnerable, and the world's true villains, the greedy, indifferent powers, going unchecked. And the most chilling part? Those who dare to resist, like Ukraine, are left to fend for themselves in a system that favors the powerful. Will we allow this heart of darkness to spread, or will we stand up and say enough? Thank you for watching Graf's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share, and join me tomorrow for more.